goes live in 2 minutes. Lynn Cullen live in 1 minute. Welcome to Lynn Cullen Live at pghcitypaper.com. Email your questions and comments to Lynn at pghcitypaper.com.
Well, welcome to Monday, March 11th. Here we are. Boy, almost mid-March, guys, which at least makes that beautiful spring-like day yesterday seem to make perfect sense. Hope you had a great weekend. And we've got a full week ahead of us, and I'm sure the fodder for conversation will continue to come apace. And I especially enjoy when you, of course, converse with me either through email or actually calling the show at 412-316-3381. Also, get right in touch at lynn@pghcitypaper.com. I have it right in front of me and monitor it throughout the program. God, I'm shedding. Okay. I don't know that this is news of import, but it certainly struck me as interesting. The Montana legislature, actually the lower house, but it's expected the upper house will do it too, has approved a measure that would allow people to take roadkill they come upon home for dinner. Now, apparently that is against the law in a lot of states, I believe including Pennsylvania. This vote was almost unanimous, 95-3, so it is a totally non-controversial issue in Montana. And, in fact, obviously, the same is true of a number of other states that already allow you to scrape up any roadkill you find and take it home and stick it in a pot. Colorado has such a measure already. Florida does. Georgia, Illinois, and not surprisingly, West Virginia, where I drive every once in a while, and the roadkill there is amazing. I mean, you might never have to buy meat if you lived in West Virginia. There's a deer about every quarter mile, I would say. There's actually experts in what to do with roadkill. One such as a guy named Matt Kenna, and he's a roadkill connoisseur. He actually, in his car, carries game dressing equipment, and so that when he comes upon an animal, he can get it and do what he has to do with it and stick it in his car. He says he takes home about $1,800 worth of fresh meat every year from roadkill, and his favorite is elk steak marinated in Italian dressing. Oh, there you have it. I mean, I guess that makes sense if you know it's fresh. I mean, you can tell if it's relatively fresh, if it's not terribly mangled. Say a deer is killed by blunt force trauma to the head or something, you got that whole body. That's a lot of steak and sausage and all kinds of other stuff. So anyway, as far as I know, I think you can't. I don't think you can legally claim roadkill in Pennsylvania yet. Let me just ask Jess, can you turn down my a little bit? My own voice is echoing around in my brain cavity, and it's disconcerting to say yeah, a little bit more. No, more up. More. Yeah, that sounds about right. Yeah? That's okay. Sort of where I'm used to hearing the dulcet tones of moi. Jeez. Okay, well, let's see. That was the roadkill thing. Oh, and still on what we eat. I know this is an old story, but I'm just blown away by the continued reporting on it and numbers. Where when you buy fish at the supermarket, the odds of you getting the fish that it says it is are not great. You think you're buying flounder? I got news for you. That could be something totally different. They mislabel and knowingly mislabel all kinds of fish. But the amount of how much is mislabeled is just mind-blowing. The odds of you getting tuna when you buy tuna, I'm not talking about canned tuna, you buy a tuna steak or something at the food market, you're going to grill it. The odds of you actually getting tuna are not good. In fact, the odds that you will not get tuna, even though it's said to be tuna, are greater. Nearly 60% of all tuna sold, not only in grocery stores in the United States, but also at restaurants. So if you go out and you order tuna, I know you think it tastes like tuna, but there are other fish that do taste somewhat like tuna, and that's undoubtedly what you might be eating. They've actually done DNA tests on, to find out, is this a tuna or isn't this a tuna? Mostly it's not tuna. Most of the mislabeled tuna is, in fact, a fish called escolar. And escolar is known to cause diarrhea. So if, you had some tuna the other day and then you had, a little bit of discomfort, it could be that wasn't tuna. It was escolar, which is a much oilier fish than tuna. And, you think of all these conscientious people scraping roadkill off the, and looking to eat fish instead of meat, and looking to eat certain kinds of fish because that fish is deemed to be more healthful than others. And you think you're doing it, but in fact you're not. Red snapper, do you like that? Red snapper was misrepresented 87% of the time. So the odds of you actually having gotten red snapper when you bought red snapper or you at either a restaurant or grocery store, it would be incredible if in fact you got red snapper. 87% of the time it ain't. I'm not sure what fish it is, but now what does that tell you about? Doesn't the FDA, the Food and Drug Administration, I know that they have to look at meat and, judge it to be there are regulators and inspectors about, make sure it is what it is. You got this horse fiasco in Europe, but quite clearly we I mean, I don't know. You know, roadkill's starting to seem like a better idea. At least you know what you're eating. But whatever it is you're picking up at the store or a restaurant, you can't be sure at all. In fact, in some instances, you can be sure you're not getting what you thought you were getting. I think that's mind-blowing that we don't, you see and hear people who don't think government has a job. The only way you can do that, obviously, if the private sector is, cheating us or screwing us or misleading us or not giving us what it is they say they're giving us, that the only entity that can get a handle on this is government regulation. I'll let the market decide. Sure. Sure. Heaven knows they're trustworthy. Okay, and if you spent any of the weekend cheering on a basketball team that you love or a hockey team that's pretty damn hot that you love, let it be known that this, like eating fish, is good for your health. A study has shown, I got this in the New York Times over the weekend, so this must be absolutely correct. Sports fans are less prone, now this will be surprising to some, less prone to depression and to feeling socially alienated than people who don't get into rooting, like don't get into March Madness, don't get into pennant fever, don't ever get caught up and excited by. So sports fans, you would think, if the team you're rooting for goes down, sports fans gets terribly depressed. But in fact, there's something about being a fan, and especially even what's called a highly identified fan, which would be, a rabid fan, that they experience higher levels of arousal while watching their teams, and also in life, fewer bouts of depression and alienation. So get yourself a team and get into it. I mean, they can, obviously nowadays you can tell if somebody's, getting aroused by monitoring all kinds of physical indicators like brain waves and heart rate and perspiration. I was blown away in the early years of my television career in finding out that one of the ways that television station owners decided what on-air people were worth keeping and promoting and which were not, is they would do, you've heard of these focus groups. But focus groups can be just asking people questions, and focus groups can be, and this is the thing that blew me away, that there were focus groups. I don't know if they still do this, but they were doing it back in the day when I was out there. They would get a room full of people, and you do, in fact, plug them in. So you're measuring their heart rate, you're measuring how much they sweat, you're measuring all of that. It's called galvanic skin response tests, I believe. And then they would show my work. They show the reporter's work. And they see how much you sweat, how much your heart goes blah, 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 blah. And so the ones they want to hold on to are the ones that do arouse the audience. And I'm not talking necessarily sexually, because there are other ways to do it, but obviously, if you wonder why your TV screen is populated by pretty little things, I do suspect that has something to do with they know that those pretty little things will make some people's hearts beat a little faster and their respiration go up a bit. And when you're in the business and you're a young woman And you're thinking, you gotta be kidding. You mean my job security is bound up with whether or not a group of perfect strangers sweats enough when they watch my work? Uh-huh. Yeah. So that was television guys getting scientific. I don't know if they still do that. I wouldn't doubt it. I'm sure whatever it is they're doing now is even more fine-tuned than it was back in the 70s and 80s when I was young and in TV and the subject of possible galvanic skin response tests. So, I mean, what that means actually is that even if you don't have to be beautiful, but if you're somebody who's forceful or has a personality, chances are people will respond more. But how? I mean, it seems to me that, your own judgment can tell you whether or not somebody has it or doesn't have it. I don't know. Who knows? Oh, it's a typical Monday, and I am avoiding heavy subjects. I do have some heavy subjects here, but they shall come later in the program because I just can't yet do it. Can't. Not after that beautiful weekend. Can't. It's amazing how when there are these little flirtatious days in the end of winter and before spring, and on a weekend when it happens, and it's like all of a sudden the world is repopulated. I mean, people spill out of their homes. You see so many people and so many children, and it's good for the soul. I can't tell you how many little, 2-year-olds, you could tell maybe this is the first time they actually careened by themselves down a sidewalk with a, proud parent just joyfully toddling along behind them. Which brings me to this picture that was in the paper this weekend. Did you see that? And it was on this beautiful day, so-and-so took his young 2-year-old son for a walk in Friendship Park. But the thing was, the little kid was on a leash. It was a cute leash. It was a leash that looked like he had on a backpack that with a, stuffed animal then that was clinging to his back. But then from all that, the father was behind him, and clearly there was a tether there. And I thought, oh, come on. You're in a park. The only time I can see that is if you're in a very populated place where there's a lot of people and a kid could bang like that, get lost or something. But if you're in the park, you and the kid, a 2-year-old kid can outrun you. I got to tell you, the father was a young man. Why on a gorgeous day would you put a tether on a child who's in a park? I just don't get it. I don't. I never will. I never, ever will. It's beyond me. Okay, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to take a quick break. We're going to come back. I have one other somewhat softball, and then we'll get into some, I believe, nitty-gritty. If there's nitty-gritty fans out there, stay tuned.
Email your questions and comments to Lynn at pghcitypaper.com or call Lynn at 412-316-3381. Lynn Cullen Live will return in a moment.
Go to bergbargains.com for great deals on museums, shows, and meals from your favorite local restaurants. This week only, get discounts up to 30% on gift cards to Hyde Park. Supplies are limited. Bergbargains.com, Pittsburgh's best bargains. Bergbargains.com.
I didn't know about chronic obstructive pulmonary disease until I took the wheel and lent my support to Drive for COPD. Help Americans take action against this leading cause of death by logging on to driveforcopd.org to learn more. I'm Nancy Cartwright, the voice of Bart Simpson, and I drive for COPD.
Have a question or an opinion? Call Lynn Cullen at 412-316-3381 or email lynn at pghcitypaper.com. Now, more with Lynn Cullen Live.
Okay, this has to do with the new ways that we communicate. And as you know, most of us learn to do email, and some of us then moved on to text and tweet and all that kind of stuff. But there's an opinion piece in the business section of the New York Times today, written by obviously a young person. And he is so annoyed by people, I guess, like me or anybody who use the old sense of what proper behavior is and apply that to new media. In other words, he is annoyed if you send an email to him and asking him a question or something, and he maybe responds, although testily, and then you send him another email and just simply say, thank you. The thank you email will make him scream. Your initial email also made him scream, but he figured, oh, well, okay, I'll tell you, because young people do not want you to ask them, well, could you give me directions to your place? They think that is the stupidest question ever. Or what time, when is that movie showing? Or where is that movie showing? Or what hours does that... Don't ask me stupid questions that you could find the answers to like that. And don't waste my time by saying thank you. I have to open your thing. I have to see if you said anything else or not. I have to whatever. I have to deal with the fact that you are continuing a communication, which was an annoyance to start with because it was unnecessary. Here is a young person being asked about all this, and she says this: I have a decreasing amount of tolerance for unnecessary communication because it is a burden and a time waster. And so I'm just telling you, next time you ask someone for directions in an email, understand that you might really be annoying them. Or asking them anything which you could Google yourself. So young people think, well, they know, that knowledge, this kind of knowledge, is available to all of us very quickly. So they don't want you asking them. They want you to ask Google and leave them alone. I mean, ask them something only they can respond to, but here's another thing. I happened to ask my 21-year-old son the other day, did you respond to the voicemail that so-and-so left you? The response? Huh? The voicemail, I know, and this had to do with sort of a bank. I said, someone at the bank was getting in touch with you, and they said they would leave a voicemail. Did you get the voicemail? Yeah, maybe, I don't know. And it turns out, see, and Jess is saying, and I'm looking at Jess. Jess is saying, yeah, she gets that. You don't listen to voicemail. No. Anyone under the age of 30 does not now want to listen to voicemail. So, not to mention, oh my God, do not. I mean, leave a message on an answering machine. They won't hear it. They don't acknowledge. These are old-fashioned, stupid ways of communication to young people. So you think you're being with it by calling a young person's cell phone and then leaving a message on voicemail. They won't listen to it. I'm telling you, they don't listen. Why? It takes time. They don't want to do it. They think anyone who's so old that they're leaving voicemails, they don't want to hear from anyway. And if you want to communicate with a young person, you have to text them. Jess, am I right? Yes. Text them. That's it. It's quick. It's to the point. And there's no messy interaction necessary, nor necessary to be polite and pleasant and all these hello and how are you and sincerely and excuse me, didn't mean none of that. I'm telling you this. This is in the business section of the Times. I mean, they have to figure that there's a divide now in how you want to reach young people. Don't leave them oral messages of any kind. First of all, this guy who writes this said, why would you leave a voicemail when you could text? He said, think of how long it takes you to get access to the voicemail. You sit there through ring, ring, ring. How knows how many rings? Because you're waiting for the voicemail, right? Then the voicemail comes on, and you have to sit through whatever the stupid message. Hello, I'm not hearing now. Leave after the beep. And then you leave your message. They think that's crazy. Text them. They don't like email very much. They don't like phones and voicemail. This guy writes, my father learned all this last year after leaving me a dozen voicemail messages, none of which I listened to. This is the guy who works for the New York Times. His father leaves him 12 messages, and he doesn't listen to them. What a creep. Exasperated, my father called my sister to complain that I never returned his calls, and my sister said, well, why are you leaving him voice messages? No one listens to voicemail anymore. Just text him. Okay, so I'm just telling you this. People ask me, they ask me about my son, and I said, when you talk, I said, mostly we text. And that's okay. I mean, it's okay up to a point, but at some point, if it doesn't go beyond text, it's pretty pathetic. Now, this guy likens this to the advent of any new technology, and there's always these questions of exactly how do you use it or what is the proper way to use it. And some of us older people are just not tuned in enough. We transplant all the old ways onto the new forms, and I guess that's just not cool. He points out that in the late 1870s, when the telephone first came on the scene, the fact is people didn't have a clue what to do when it rang. Okay, I got to take a call. I'm taking a call. How retro of me. Hello?
Hi, Lynn. I'm making a very retro call myself.
Yes, you are.
On the whole issue of this new social media etiquette.
Yep.
I'm almost 60 years old, and I've always seeing the logic and having the respect for people before you drop in on them. You give them a call, make sure they're not in their pajamas or something. That's wonderful. That's great.
I agree.
But any more, people my own age, you can't call them without texting first to make an appointment to call them because they get angry at you.
Isn't that the truth?
And there's times you don't want to text. You want to have a discussion. You want to bounce things off of them. And they don't care about it.
And you're saying your own age. So these are
my own age. People
right.
60 years old.
Well, I got somebody who's 70 who I once said, don't you miss having telephone conversations with people? I said, remember when we used to just call each other and then we might talk for a little bit or talk for a lot or whatever? And she said, no, I think of telephone calls now as almost an impolite intrusion.
Right.
It's true.
To get in touch with you now, I pulled out my computer because I was going to send you an email, and I said, this is crazy to send this particular message by email. So I picked up the phone to call you.
I am so glad. And, come on. I can hear your voice. You can hear mine. There's nuance in that. If everything gets reduced to these dry kind of just get to the point texts, where's the humanity? Where's the humanity in that?
Thank you, Lynn. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Yeah. Because, on a text, nobody is going to sit there and text anything long. Texts are by nature short. And I even can tell my texts are too long because I'll look at, young people's texts. They're so bang, bang, bang. And, it even gets to the point where, okay, so you're setting up a date. Okay, so meet you so-and-so at this place at that time. And the response back, just so the person lets me know that they got it, is simply the letter K. K. So even okay is too long. You can't put okay because okay might take a split second more of your time. What do these people do with all the time they supposedly save by not typing O and just typing K? Hello?
Hi.
Hi.
The absolute worst thing about texts is that there is no inflection in a text.
Indeed.
And that you can send a text and it can be read in a way that it can sound to somebody evil or it can sound to somebody nice, and you can't really tell the difference.
Because you don't hear tone, right.
There is no tone.
Mm-hmm.
So the only thing, to me, that really makes sense in a text is to send something like, I will meet you at 3 o'clock.
That's right.
Because if I want to send something that says something that makes sense, well, then why? I want to hear somebody's voice, and I want them to hear my voice.
Well, all right, but you know what? At this point, that's going the way of the dodo bird. It really is.
I know, but when it comes to my son, I've warned him. If you see my telephone number, I want you to pick it up.
Yeah, I've had to say that to mine too. Hey, right? No, you don't ignore.
He's 22,
Yeah.
and hey, idiot, pick it up. And if you can't, I'm going to leave a message. And if you happen to see my phone number in that list, you check your email or your voicemail.
Well, have you ever sent a text like I have in all caps that says something like, call me! Exclamation point. Yeah.
Yeah. So he does.
Yes. That's it. No, that's it, right.
I've sent many that say, call your mother. He doesn't live far away.
Oh, gosh. Oh, Lord. Well, hang in there.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
I try.
Thank you. Thank you. This is a real generational divide more than anything else. But what I was saying, okay, 1872 or something. There's this newfangled thing. It rings and then you pick it up. Nobody knew what to do then. And Alexander Graham Bell himself said he thought maybe you should pick it up and say, ahoy. Mm-hmm. Somebody else said you should pick it up and say, what is wanted? Nobody knew what to do. Somehow, hello won out. Hello. Now, we think everybody knows you pick up a phone and say hello. Although now you don't anymore. Now it's more like, sup. Sup. So these things have to sort of be, worked out. But back to this younger person in the New York Times, he writes, so with Google and online maps at our fingertips, what was once normal can now be seen as uncivilized, like asking someone for directions to your house or restaurant or office when they can just Google it. In the age of the smartphone, it is unacceptable to ask people questions that were once acceptable. Like, what time is it? Like, what's the weather forecast? Like, what is some business's phone number? So, young people don't want these piddling little things as if they're all deep in, like what? What's so important that they're doing that they can't be inconvenienced in this manner? Oh, man. So this guy finishes up by, hey, look, so how do you handle all this when, he said, consider your audience. Some people, especially older ones, appreciate maybe a thank you message on email, while younger ones are driven insane by it. It is important to think about who the relationship is with, what they are, and where their heads are. Oh, for God's sake. Even Emily Post couldn't make head nor tails out of this. Jess, do I sound like an old fart?
Not too kind.
A little bit, kinda. No, yeah, kinda. Well, I'm less of an old fart than many of the old farts I know because I have a 21-year-old kid, and he keeps me a little bit tuned in. But I pity the person who does not have young people in their lives because they don't have a clue. They're like somebody who would pick up the phone and say, ahoy! They're just out of it. I get an email from Tracy saying, hi, Tracy, by the way, I see kids on leashes all the time at IKEA. But that store is so very busy, I can see why. Yeah, okay, IKEA. You're busy looking at something and the kid goes bolting. Right, but a park on a nice Sunday? You're supposed to run after your kid. You're supposed to. That's play. Let them play. I can't imagine what that does to a kid's head that they're on a leash in a park. Oh, the old people are writing in because this subject line is annoying young people. Isn't annoying young people our revenge for having to raise them? Oh, isn't annoying young people our revenge? Well, I get that. That's our prerogative. We went through all the trouble of raising them and all the stuff that comes with it, and the least we should be allowed is to annoy them for the rest of their lives. And Colette says, I have to admit I've wondered about sending the thank you emails. You know what? I've even been annoyed by them. I've sent them, and I've been annoyed by them. I think this is unnecessary. Unnecessary! Isn't that odd? So things change the way, and we're still sort of feeling our way around what the proper etiquette is. Now, kids, I suppose, they find out very quickly. Us, a little bit more out of it, don't. And also, because this technology changes so quickly, you're just getting used to email. Forget it. It's gone. And then you have to learn a whole new way of functioning in another reality. I don't know. We're so. Geez, you guys, all our old fartism is coming out. Ray, I think of you as so with it. Ray, what a nasty little punch this is, and it's so terse it could be tweeted. Ray writes, "I'll tell you what a real time waster is. Any conversation at all with anyone under 30. Oh, Jess is pissed. Okay, go ahead. Get this. Hello.
Yes, good morning.
Hi.
Glad you're keeping things light today.
Thank you.
But I want to throw one other thing out to you. It's about you haven't commented on it. Daylight savings time, and why in the heck we still have it, and why in the heck does it exist, and what kind of damage are we causing to our bodies? I mean, if you have someone that has gotten a job offer from the West Coast and they're accepting it on the East Coast this time of year, you're almost automatically setting up a failure for them. And I know you've talked about it in the past. Just want to get some input from you and your callers today.
Okay. They say that today is the toughest Monday because we've lost this hour with daylight savings time. What I don't understand is why don't they just keep daylight savings time the regular saving? I mean, we all seem to like it better, right? So what would that mean in the winter? That would mean it'd be lighter, longer, but it'd be very dark. What we hear is that these are safety issues that deal with kids waiting for buses in the dark. I have no idea. What was the original thing? It had to do with agriculture? Or did it have to do with saving? I can't remember. See, I can't remember. Did it have to do with saving electricity, like during a war? Rationing, maybe? The thing is, I don't know if there can be agreement on this. Europe, do European nations and Asian nations, do they do this switch from standard time to daylight saving time? I have no idea. The 1 hour that is tweaked does affect some people quite a bit, and others barely notice it. But it affects, yes, a body is on a certain kind of schedule, and it does throw it off. But, I mean, if you travel at all, I mean, long distance, air travel, and, you can lose 4, 5, 6 hours like that going either way. That really screws you up. 1 hour doesn't seem like much to me. I don't know. Obviously, you think it's an outrage, but I can't get that outraged about it. I really can't. I like that it's lighter, longer, in warmer temperatures because we like to be outside and enjoy it. And in the winter, who cares? It's dark, it's cold, it's depressing. So if the sun sets at 4 in the afternoon, what difference does it make? But, in the summer, you couldn't tolerate that. I'm sorry if I'm not working up enough vehemence because the caller certainly, clearly does not like this transition. I personally don't have a problem with it. I just wonder if it's necessary, why there couldn't be a standard that worked 12 months out of the year. And if nobody talks to me about this, I'm going to stop muttering about it myself. And anyway, I got to take a second break. Good God, how did it get that late? Okay, I'll be right back.
Stick around for more with Lynn Cullen Live after this.
Pittsburgh City Paper is available now. Pick up one today for our special summer camp section. Plus, Joel McHale, Lord of the Dance, and the latest news on Ravenstall and the upcoming mayoral election. Pittsburgh City Paper, available at over 1,700 locations throughout Western Pennsylvania and on the web at pghcitypaper.com and on your smartphone at citypapermobile.com.
Packers.
Vikings.
We come from different places.
Uptown.
Downtown.
We come to different conclusions.
Half empty.
Half full.
But when we live united, we make a real difference in the building blocks of life. Children succeed in school, families gain financial stability, the health of our neighbors improves, and suddenly so do our communities. Real change won't happen without you.
Live United.
So give, advocate, volunteer, live united. Sign up today at liveunited.org. Brought to you by United Way and the Ad Council.
You're listening to Lynn Cullen live at pghcitypaper.com. Once again, here's Lynn Cullen.
All right. I don't know if any of you saw it. There's so many times. This is a very interesting bit. This back page, or the next page they call it. Back page is our paper. The next page, which is in the Sunday Post-Gazette, in the opinion op-ed editorial section, forum is what they call it. Okay. And this weekend, it was about a possibility that seems so wonderful. And I love the idea of it, but mostly there was a fact in it that freaked me out. This has to do with what we still call the U.S. Steel Tower, even though U.S. Steel's name is not on it anymore, and in fact, the awful letters UPMC are on it. I'm so thrilled. I've never heard anybody say the UPMC Tower. They can put their name up all over the place, but it ain't the UPMC Tower, okay? Okay? So, turns out that roof at the very top of that tower, when the building was first built, that roof, and not surprisingly because there's other roofs downtown that are designed somewhat in the same way, I'm sure, was designed as a landing pad for all those rich CEOs' helicopters and for their vertical takeoff jets. Who knew? And consequently, the rooftop is made extremely strong. Okay, so we got a very strong flat roof up there. 84. Wait, how many floors is that? Above. How many floors is that? 84, I think. Feet. 84. What? It doesn't matter. Cullen, don't lose track here. Okay. And here's the factoid that drove me nuts. 182 buildings in the world are taller. Which actually, I'm surprised that's not more. 100, with those huge towers going up in all these world capitals all over the place. This is still the 183rd tallest building in the world. However, that roof, that flat roof right there on Grant and 7th, is the largest, highest, flat space on top of any building in the world. Don't ask me. I'm a little shocked myself that those other huge buildings that are higher than U.S. Steel building, none of them have a flat roof that would make their flat roof no, none. That's the highest with a flat roof, and it makes that flat roof the largest, highest flat space in the world that's man-made. Largest, highest flat space in the world. Now, that fact, it's over an acre. That fact means that that's something special up there. Who knew? That's something special. It's this big flat expanse, higher than any place else in the world. It should be used. And that's the whole idea behind this piece in Sunday's paper. It's not a new idea. The fact is, heavy hitters like the Heinz Endowments, Pittsburgh Parks Conservancy, the Buell Foundation, the Sprout Fund are all behind making the top of that building a destination, a wondrous place that we would go. We would go because it would be like a park. It would be a glass-walled, open-air promenade. It could have an incredible restaurant. It could have what are called viewseums, expansive garden areas in every corner that could be used for events. The view from up there, exceptional. What's not to like about this? In fact, a lot of people have over the years, including CMU architectural students, have worked on what could be up there. That would be a destination that would make Pittsburgh somebody. Oh, have you ever been to Pittsburgh's whatever we would call it? You could have a huge, they're calling it High Point, Pittsburgh. Now, it would be an independent entity. It would generate its own revenue. And this could be, obviously, one-of-a-kind public space on the highest flat acre man-made in the world. What's not to like about this idea? Absolutely nothing. Absolutely nothing. This city already has so many exceptional parks and open areas. But to build essentially a park up there. Here's one of the problems. The people who own the building, they live in New York. Winthrop Realty Partners, they live in New York. They don't give two hoots about some destination spot in Pittsburgh on top of one of their damn buildings. And they have no interest whatsoever in this concept. And consequently, you can't move on it if the people who own the damn building won't get behind it. But as I said, heavy hitters here are behind it and want to see it. They're even imagining that they would have glass-floored sections where you're walking on glass out beyond it, and you would 860 feet below you, it would just be a clear shot down, an island in the sky. Anyway, I wanted to say that I think that is such an extraordinary idea, and who knew? Who knew that was a special hunk of real estate on top of that building? And Joseph writes, amazingly, with that huge building up there, and it's been there for some time, there has never been an observation deck, Joseph writes, on that tower since its inception. It's unbelievable. It is. What a wasted opportunity. Oh, and you properly call it the USX Tower. I don't even call it the USX Tower. I call it US Steel. Because I'm cantankerous and old. But anyway, I thought it was a fascinating idea. And just an indication of all these, possibilities, and then unrealized possibilities. We realize a lot of really smart people have spent a lot of time already working on this. They've got drawings. They know how it would work. Chris writes, did you know that you can see the top of the U.S. Steel building from the summit on Route 31 outside of Mount Pleasant near Fayette County? It's amazing how far away it is. I don't know, I can't quite place that spot because I don't know Route 31 or Route 31, excuse me. That's one of those things I learned when I was in theater school, that it's route, not route. You rout the enemy. You drive on Route 31. I always say, my inclination is to say route. Okay, Route 31. I don't know, but there have been places where I have been. I agree with you. Where I have been, I thought, I don't know, I'm in Ohio. And so I'll be on a place where I look and you see the U.S. Steel building looming way. And now, unfortunately, which just boils my blood, as you know, when you see it, because at the very top, it's got those damn letters, UPMC on it. I just hate it. And when you're flying into Pittsburgh, my Lord, you do see it then. You could be, taking off from Cleveland and you already see it. It's pretty amazing. Really is. Well, so it just, just so as you know, there are all these possibilities, and people have given them quite a bit of thought. And people like them and somehow can't get them off the ground. So I did that 4802 show on Friday night. I'm just going to give you a little piece of wisdom that came out of it. Because I'm on that show with there's 4 of us panelists, and 3 of them are politicos. I mean, they are. 2 of either currently or have held elective office. And the third worked for Governor Thornburg back in the day and is a political analyst. So, I mean, these are guys who live, breathe, they love politics. They know all the scuttlebutt and this and that. And often after the show, they're jabbering at each other, and my eyes cross and I glaze over and I wander away. So we were the subject of this wide open Pittsburgh mayoral race, since Luke has decided not to seek re-election, came up. And I talked about, everybody and his uncle is saying they're running. And it was told to me that a lot of these people you're seeing, and this is how naive I am. I mean, once it was said, I realized it. But a lot of the people who are jumping in are jumping. I mean, I said, why are they doing it? They don't have a chance in hell. And they all looked at me like, what? Are you so stupid? No, of course they don't have a chance in hell. They're not there to win. They're there to keep someone else from winning. I'm naive. I think, here's an office and people who want to hold it run because they have great ideas. No, that's not how politics works. Some people do that. I know Bill Peduto, definitely. This is a guy who's been working hard to be a fantastic mayor for God knows how long. He lives, eats, and breathes it. And then there are people who all of a sudden, as you know, every day there's another new name, want to be the mayor. They couldn't have put much thought into it because they hadn't been running before they heard that Luke wasn't. So I see them as opportunists, but no, the word for many of them is not opportunist, some, but not all. It's spoiler. They're there at the behest of some other candidate to minimize the impact of another candidate. So, if there's a candidate, for instance, Bill Robinson threw his hat in the ring, the only African American, well, then he could, if you got a field this large and all the African Americans vote for Bill Robinson, he could win. So, you hear now that Jake Wheatley, another African American, is thinking of getting in. That's got to be an effort to cut Bill Robinson's vote intake, and Jake Wheatley has to be doing that for somebody else. Wayne Fontana, who came out of nowhere, wants to run. He's from the South Hills. Apparently, he was cajoled into doing it by certain forces wanting to pull votes away from Jack Wagner and or Michael Lamb because they all are from the same geographic area, South Pittsburgh. So a lot of these people that are doing this are doing it for one purpose and one purpose only. They are serving to harm another candidate's chances. That's politics. But what the Politico, Bill Green, who said, and, you know, he's a Republican analyst, he doesn't have a dog in this race because Pittsburgh is a Democratic city and all these guys are Democrats, but he's followed local politics forever, so he knows them. He said with such certainty in his voice, like, why are we even going to bother having the election? He said, this is a two-man race. And I said, who would those two men be? And I'm just passing this on. Those two men are Bill Peduto and Jack Wagner. He says, that's who the two are. I don't know. One of those guys is going to be your mayor. And I got to tell you, all you lefties who get excited hearing that Furlow's getting in, Furlow's a spoiler. He's a spoiler for Peduto. Without a doubt. Without a doubt. So, I mean, stop and think about who's got the shot and who doesn't, and keep your eye on the prize, okay? I don't know that Furlow will get in, but if he is, he's coming in to stop Peduto. Just so you know. All right, that's it. That's it. I have to go back now and wait for the furnace repair guy, as if I need a furnace in this glorious weather. So pity poor me, I'll be there. And the window is from noon till 6. Oh, great. I got nothing to do for 6 hours except sit around and wait. Ugh. Don't you hate it? Life's little stresses. That's it. Have a good day, and hope you tune in again tomorrow.
Lynn Cullen Live, Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. and archived at pghcitypaper.com. The opinions expressed on Lynn Cullen Live are those of the host and do not necessarily reflect the viewpoints of Pittsburgh City Paper, Steel City Media, and its advertisers.